And welcome everybody to the Apocrypha Apocalypse. I am Gary Machuda, and we're joined together with Dr. Dave. Hi, Dr. David. How you doing?
Hi, Gary. Thanks. Fine. Just arrived. How about you?
Good, good. Yeah, just literally like as soon as the intro was done, your face popped up on StreamYard, so I'm glad to see you. How's your week been? It sounds like you've been traveling.
Yeah, last week I was traveling. I've been to UK, was attending a conference, and I'm back now. I have some free days, but today was an exception. Otherwise, I'm good. Thank you. How
Good.
about you?
Well, things have been good. My wife's surgery came out good. She's
Awesome.
recuperating. A lot of pain, and
Mm.
but she's on track, so life is good, thanks be to God. And yeah, I mean that's why today's chill stream was kind of like a hot potato with the team. By the way, William Albrecht won't be able to join us today, but it's been kind of chaos here at the household with the routine being changed. So I think today's team stream is going to be short, probably about an hour, because we got hold down the fort over here. So hopefully that'll work, and that's why I appreciate you coming on and being with us. So yeah, we're doing great, doing great. Thank you very much. It's good to see some familiar names in the chat. So this is just open Q&A, no real topic or anything, and since it's going to be a fairly short live stream, guys, if you have any questions, throw them up there in the chat room. David and I will see what we can do as far as answering them. And also, if you want to come join us, have a discussion, we could do it. But we can't have lengthy discussions, though, just because I'd like to try to cover as much ground as possible with as many people as possible, seeing if anyone wants to come on and talk about the Canon. So, yeah, we just looking at the welcome aboard. By the way, guys, as always, please subscribe, like, hit the bell, tell your friends, share the live stream if we cover anything that you think would be useful for a friend. Maybe they're looking into the Canon, and yeah, get the word out. Also, if you want, you could support us financially through memberships. We have freebies and things with memberships. Also, Patreon. William Albrecht, myself, are on Patreon. We appreciate your financial support as well. And yeah, so that's the commercial break. And I actually got a chill stream, and I saw you in the chat room, David. What was it, Tuesday?
Yeah,
Yesterday.
right.
Boy, it
Yes,
seems like a
yes.
week ago. So I was able to sneak down here and actually do a chill stream.
Yeah, it
So
was excellent,
thank
And
you.
I also like uh is he Sam? Reason Believe? I don't know what is his name.
I don't know what his name is, to tell you the truth. I think he
Yeah.
told me, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, Sam Jenkins, I think. But I'm not sure.
Yes, that sounds familiar.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So I like his voice, it's so relaxing, just
Yeah, right.
was doing my stuff and just listening to him. His journey,
Yeah,
to Eastern Orthodoxy, and yeah, it was interesting. So I understood he was a Protestant before,
uh,
and or
yeah, I
no,
think
or
so.
atheist even,
He was an
perhaps.
atheist.
Oh,
I think
atheist. Okay.
I think he briefly became Protestant, and then
Yeah.
uh, I'm not sure, either that or he went straight to Christianity and then Orthodoxy, but I'm not sure exactly how, because he seems
Mhm.
very familiar with Protestantism. Um,
Yeah. It's I thought, or it seemed to me that he was Protestant for a short time at least,
yeah, yeah,
and then went to Eastern Orthodox. He was just received into the Eastern Orthodox Church, I believe.
right.
Mm.
Yeah, a great guy. People support Reason Belief. He's a friend of the channel, along with our other friends, Tony L. and also SoCal Preston is on there, and
Right.
Sam Shamoon, of course. And in fact, we might be on Sam Shamoon Friday, but we'll see. I know, David, I think either you, no, I think you were the one that you don't think you might be able to make Friday.
Yeah, so I think I will make it, but it's like in a later time, 5 p.m. or something in your time. That's for me quite late, but I think I will manage it.
Yeah.
So it's always good to have the whole team together, and plus Sam, it's just a great bonus. So
Yeah,
why
exactly.
not?
Exactly.
It's
But you,
always
you
fun.
do you do very well with late night because that debate you did, that how late did it go your time? Wasn't it?
Yeah, that was exhausting. Like it was like I went to bed like 3 a.m. or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
And
crazy.
next day, uh, going to work to the hospital. So it was a little bit
I bet.
wasn't very like healthy, but but it was fine. I could manage that. Yeah.
So when you were interning, did you have to do very long shifts and that type of thing?
Yeah, that's the fact that we do have night shifts, so I'm quite used to that. I don't really like working during the midnight or early in the morning, but sometimes you have even in our field or specialty, sometimes patients when they require attention immediately, so you cannot just postpone anything.
That's true. That's true. You can't say I'm on the golf course and
Right.
let somebody else do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have so Cesar Ute has, I'm 99% sure David and Elijah Yassi are actually not the same person. Still, it would be nice to see them both on stream. Uh, just to know to be sure. No, I actually know Elijah Yassi. We hung out, and I can verify that Elijah Yassi is not David. So,
He's
uh,
very knowledgeable on the papacy, I think, and
yeah,
also Mariology as well. Yeah, great
yeah,
guy.
yeah. It's just I'd love to have him on, but it's the canon's not really. I don't think that's his wheelhouse. But maybe we could figure out some way to figure out how the papacy can be dovetailed into issues of the canon. I mean, that'd be actually easy, but
Mhm.
something that he would be particularly good at. But I'd love to have Elijah on, and therefore it proved that David and Elijah are not the same person.
Right.
Uh, 2 years and now I'm Catholic. Oh, that's interesting. Interesting fact. This is Grace-Filled Journeys. I attended Church Apologia with Jeff Durbin and James White for almost 2 years, and now I'm Catholic. I think they converted me. Yeah, the thing is, if you're going to do that lowbrow apologetics where you're quoting out of context or you're quoting secondary sources without checking it out, it'll backfire. People will check it out and say, wow, that's this guy I thought was at the pinnacle of Protestantism and apologetics, and it turns out he's just not that good. And his stuff is filled with holes. So, yeah, so sometimes bad apologists can boomerang. That's why it's important to know your stuff.
Right. Right. The only time I like see or James White debating, or when I got my fingers crossed for him, is when he's debating like atheists or Unitarians or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Otherwise, not a big fan of him, but
yep,
yeah.
yeah, I agree. Um, and for me, James White's debates, I think he laminates his opening statement in debates because he never changes the material. Even if somebody knocks the daylights out of his material and shows there's factual inconsistencies, he still says the same thing as if nothing happened.
Right.
So it's kind of boring after a while watching his debates because you know what's going to come and what's the stock answers and things like that, which makes him
Exactly.
a prime target for somebody to debate him. Like somebody today, if they did the research, he'd be so easy to debate because you know exactly what he's going to say in response, and you just have to come up with one step further.
Right. Right.
So when will Dr. David have a debate? He is awesome with William. I agree. Love the fact that he kept our Protestant brothers' feet to the fire.
Thank you, Cedric. I think
Yes,
Cedric.
Cedric.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Well, of course, I did challenge, for example, Steve Christie, but he thinks I'm a rude guy, and that's why he is not going to debate me. So otherwise, I have no problem, of course, debating anyone on the Canon.
Yeah.
Maybe someday again in the future we'll see. But otherwise, I'm still working on some new stuff. So keep your eyes open. I'm preparing some things, some surprises as well. Perhaps people will enjoy some of the upcoming videos and my inputs. And yeah, some of they are like less interesting or more interesting. Or I know people like debunking, for example, the so-called errors in the Diderot canon. So that is always something I like to do. And also T-Fan and Chapa motivated me to look into Maccabees and how this stuff can be resolved. And yeah, so I think we will, even if we don't have debates, we will still produce new great stuff, I think. Yeah. And you, Gary, you were awesome, of course, on the chill stream, Paul's utilization of the Diderot canon and the quotations.
Yeah.
I just cannot understand where you find the time for so much information.
It's cumulative, my friend. It's just, I accumulate all this stuff over the years. It's just hard to keep it all in my brain at the same time. But thanks. So that was a ton of fun. I'd love for you guys to do more debates. But here's a spoiler, guys. No one wants to debate the canon. And this is how it's always been. I've received very few offers from Protestants to debate. Now, sometimes you will get some very eccentric Protestants that, they're just not mainstream. And so the debate would be really weird and not beneficial. But I've always been open to debating the canon, never got offers. And I mean, just like David said, he's reached out to people and they turned him down. And if I was Protestant, I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole, because what can you say to justify the Protestant canon without causing all sorts of problems and issues?
Yeah.
Is that your experience too, David?
Well, I don't have a lot of experience, so otherwise, of course, I agree with what you just said. And the other thing, for example, Steve Christie said, well, it's usually Protestants who are taking the affirmative of their canon. But of course, it's a natural consequence when you don't have an authority. And you need to decide somehow why those particular books are going to be in your Bible, but not the others. I mean, of course, all you can do is try to make a historical case for that. Now, of course, we can do that as well for the Diderot canon. But as I said, the main distinction is that we do have an authority. So, as I said, even if you go with the lists, even if you are going to claim that there were like two traditions in the church, which I don't really agree. It's more like scholarly, opinions. And much later on, as you demonstrated, Gary, that these Jeromean theories came up much later, more frequently. So even if, then how do you decide which one's right and which one's wrong, right? So we can appeal to authority, but they can't. That's the problem. So, but we can both make claims and try to make a historical case. But I think it's much more problematic for the Protestants, to justify their canon. And so it's not like that they are necessarily the ones who have to take the affirmative, but the matter of fact is that if I were a Protestant, I would not know why I should decide to reject the Diderot canon. It's just a tough question.
Exactly. Hey, we got Tony L with us. Hi, Tony. How are you doing?
Hey there, guys. I'm doing good. How are you?
Hi, Tony.
Good. Yeah. So you're still having trouble, huh, with being shadow banned or whatever it is from the channel? I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, I had emailed William and y'all about it to give you some instructions. I'm not sure how it happened, but yeah, I've been chatting in the live chat, and asking if anyone can see me. It doesn't seem like it. So
Yeah, I didn't see you if we were live chatting today. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. I saw William looking into it, but I haven't been able to follow up on it. Very weird. You should. I guess there would be an exclusion list, and I don't know why you would be on the exclusion list unless somebody accidentally clicked your name. Let's see, Hollywood Big Boss is here. How you doing? Also, Reason Belief is with us. Was your ears burning? Reason Belief. We were just talking about you. So there we go. Let's see.
by the way, on the topic of taking the affirmative for the Catholic canon, yeah, I think that would just devolve into a debate over authority, over councils and popes and stuff like that. So no, I don't know. Is it even really worth it to do that, to have that as the debate topic when you really should just choose another debate
Yeah.
topic? I don't know.
Now, see, when I debated White, I knew White would do that. He would think I would say councils are infallible. The councils gave the list of books, and then the whole thing's going to be a debate on papal infallibility or conciliar infallibility or something like that. So what I did was I deliberately omitted everything with appealing to church authority and just went purely on historical grounds. And I think that completely threw him off. So you're absolutely right. I mean, you would have to, if a Catholic's going to hold the affirmative, you would have to make it directed towards Protestantism. You couldn't make a appeal to authority. I'm sorry, David, I stepped on you.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, I remember James White's favorite phrase, right? Rome spoke, the case is closed. So
Yep,
and
absolutely.
that was his favorite to go with phrase. Yes.
Yes. Oh, so guys, this is going to be a shorter live stream just because things are a little crazy with my wife's recuperation. So if you have any questions, put it up in the chat, or if you want to come on board and have a discussion, we can have a short discussion. Here's one. Barely Christian said, would from a Protestant position adopting a canon with fuzzy edges, somewhat like Kevinet's, be more robust? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I was gonna share with y'all a debate that I saw. It was a tag team debate with Joe Heschmeyer and one other person, and they were debating Sola Scriptura. And Joe Heschmeyer's partner decided to focus specifically on the canon to disprove Sola Scriptura, and I thought it was an interesting approach. And the comeback that I had, well, if you're going to say that you can't know the canon unless God reveals it, if that's your position, then the scripture doesn't reveal its own canon. Well, then what about Protestants who are okay with the canon that's really fuzzy? Is that argument against the same amount of force? And yeah, I don't know that it does. But yeah, let me see if I can find the name of that person, because he was making a very interesting, strong argument that even a fuzzy canon doesn't work because it still has to be revealed by God. Or it's a fuzzy canon or a defined canon, the Protestant still has to come up with how they got to whatever canon they have. And if it's not revealed by God, then where the heck did you get it?
Right. Yeah. David?
Yeah, what I do appreciate about Chemnitz is that he took the same position on the New Testament as on the Old Testament. That was very fair from him, and I like to point it out to Protestants. Okay, if you want to reject the Deuterocanon because some people doubted their authority, like Jerome for a certain period, then why don't you do the same for the New Testament? And he does it. He says, like, look, the Asians did it. Trent has no authority to settle this question. So therefore, we are going to separate these books, like James, Jude, and the others. They are not of the same authority as the Gospels, which are never in dispute, right? So I do appreciate Canon's approach. So he is at least consistent in this manner. But of course, as Tony pointed out, I mean, it's still he's trying to just reconstruct the history, which is, of course, you can make mistakes. And we don't have everything. We don't have all the data. We don't have all the information. We do only have which we can recover archaeologically, which we have in manuscripts, and so on and so forth. So, huge problem. So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I totally agree. Chemnitz was like one of the few that went along with Luther on both canons, and that was vacated by Protestant Lutheran thought pretty quickly. So now they only hold to the Old Testament apocrypha distinction. Most wouldn't do the new, but there's a variety of opinions because they don't have a fixed canon anyway. So yeah, interesting question. Good question. This one I'm not too sure what he's saying. Should the King James have fully expanded apocrypha like the NSRV and the ESV? I'm not sure what he means by fully expanded apocrypha. Do you guys? Yeah, I don't. Does that mean? Are you talking about like beyond the 7 books? Is that what the?
That's what I would assume. If he's talking
Yeah.
about some of the books that Eastern Orthodox read, I don't know.
Maybe. You know, that's been a project of mine, and I have yet to find enough things to put together to do a video on. Is why Protestantism has the expanded books beyond Trent, because Luther in his original German translation only had the 7 books plus the Prayer Manasseh. So he even recognized that these 7 books stand out from all the other books. And simultaneously, Zwingli in the Zurich Bible has more books, like 3rd Maccabees and stuff like that, I think. So there's like 2 traditions right at the outset of Protestantism. And the strange thing is they took Luther's distinction, but they used Zwingli's like expanded version. And I always wondered, like, why didn't Luther's win the day? You know, I don't know.
So Zwingli's Bible had even 3rd Maccabees?
Yeah, it had all the some of the other so-called the Apocrypha as a whole. Basically, anything that was found in the Latin Bible, Zwingli had.
Mm-hmm.
So some of them actually had 3rd Maccabees in it, and it might have had other things as well. But the weird thing about the Zurich Bible with Zwingli is the so-called Apocrypha isn't between the Old and New Testaments. It's actually within the Old Testament, because I think it finishes with the Minor Prophets and then the New Testament. If I remember,
it's the same as the first like Protestant Hungarian Bible. It's called the Vizsói Bible. It's it was translated by Karol Gaspar, and he also includes 3rd Maccabees. And he makes no distinction. He's got only the Old Testament, the New Testament. In the Old Testament, he's got the Deuterocanon intermixed, but additionally, he's got only 3rd Maccabees, not the other books like 2nd Esdras, 1st Esdras. And ironically enough, at the end of the third Maccabees, which was the last book in his Bible, he says this is the end of the Old Testament.
Yeah. So yeah, very just like Luther. Tony, any additional comments?
Thing that popped into my head. Are y'all familiar with Dr. Matthew J. Thomas by chance? Have you heard him? He's kind of a patristic scholar, a Catholic scholar, and I was watching him on Joshua Charles's Eternal Christendom channel, and he was talking about his conversion story, and apparently the Canon made a big impact on his story, and he was talking about how he discovered how Luther also had a bifurcated New Testament as well, and so anyway, that was just what popped into my head. Is these sorts of facts can really have a big, shocking impact on people when they find out about these and really start to make them question everything about what they thought they knew, what's true or not. But I like to watch videos with Dr. Thomas because he's a big early patristics scholar with a lot of work on Clement and Irenaeus. And anyway, that was what popped into my head, is that there are stories out there of people who figure this out, and it really starts them on a path away from Protestantism at least, but also sometimes to the Catholic Church. Just like Reason Belief, I believe, when I was watching your chill stream.
Yes. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah, because
go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say there is no continuity, right, from the early reformers to the later ones. That's the problem. I see it as a huge problem. And Javier Perdomo was trying to make the case that they are like appealing to the earlier reformers, the earliest ones, but he could not address Chemnitz, for example, which is a huge figure in Lutheranism. So, yeah, go on.
Calvin,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. Excellent point. By the way, if you're joining us, if you haven't subscribed, please do hit the bell. God willing, I'll do a chill stream tomorrow, 3:30 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to tackle a very interesting passage in Acts, where I think actually has some probative weight as far as the Book of Wisdom is concerned. So you want to check that out. Also, memberships. Please support us through memberships and Patreon as well. We're doing a short team stream today, so we only have about a half hour left to go, and God willing. So that's why we're kind of rifling through these questions. Nadu, I have no idea how to pronounce the last part. My apologies. Is there a good book that talks about the books that are authoritative for different sects of Jews? Like, for example, the Sadducees hold a different Old Testament than the Pharisees and the Essenes. Are you aware of any books that tackle that?
I don't think there's a book on that. You might find papers, but book, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Tony, are you aware of any book?
No, not specifically. I would assume that this at least is brought up in books that are of much broader topics, like the Canon itself or ancient Judaism. I mean, I know that Bergsma and Petrie's Introduction to the Old Testament touches on this, but it's about the whole Old Testament. So you probably have to find it in other books.
Right. Yeah. Journal articles, you might find some stuff. You have to realize that our information about first century Judaism is very limited. You have the New Testament. You have rabbinic writings, which largely is from a Pharisaic perspective. So they didn't really do a lot of thinking about Sadducees and other sects. It's predominantly, comparing their views to these other views. And then, of course, Qumran, you have the stash of stuff. The rest kind of has to be inferred through history. And I don't think there would be enough material for a book-length treatment. But you might be able to search and find some articles. Yeah,
I was going to ask. I was going to ask that question. Is there enough material for a whole book just on the canon and these different sects?
Yeah, absolutely. Next question. Have you gentlemen seen Javier Perdomo's mega compilation of biblical canon evidence that supposedly goes against the Council of Trent? Might be interesting posts to respond to. I haven't.
Yeah. Yes, he's got it on Substack. It's a blog basically. So he records like 90-something people who allegedly held to the shorter canon. But what Perdomo simply is doing is quant mining. He takes like, one line, 2 lines from a author, and the author says, there are 22 books, and therefore he is appealing to a shorter canon. Stuff like this, and of course, I don't think it's that necessarily to like debunk, because Gary basically debunked this already in his mega series on the medieval scholars. So the problem is that these people, just rip out some text from the context, from the whole corpus of the works which these people wrote. And some guys wrote many things. And so just, ripping a few sentences out of one work, that's not very convincing to me. If you're not willing to read the whole thing, or at least try to somehow, reconcile other things that these people also wrote, which Perdomo is not doing, and he's not willing to do, of course. So I don't find it very, convincing.
Yeah, it would be interesting to compare what Javier's collected versus what Gary's collected in terms of individual by individual. I don't get the impression that Javier is going too deep on these things, like I've seen with Gary, going back to a primary source if at all possible, or looking at it in context.
Just as I showed you, he said, in the dialogue between Timothy and Aquila, right, the Christian and the Jew, he said, the Christian says there are 22 books, so therefore show the canon. And when you actually look at the list, the 21st book is Judith.
Right.
And then Perdomo says, the 24 is the same as the 24. 22 is the same as the 24. Like, I mean, gosh, he probably got this from a secondary source, but if you're not checking the primary source, you might run into problems, and you're just going to embarrass yourself. So it's not good.
Yep. They're like circus elephants. They just grab the tail of the one ahead of them and just keep walking,
Blind leading the blind.
Yeah, it's really easy to compile something if you get a secondary source like Webster or Cousins or something and just reproduce the names. But digging into it's a lot more difficult and a lot, it's more complex. All right. Sarah Ute says, by the way, Gary, finished watching your 8-part series. Boy, when I see stuff like that, I think I have some sort of problem. I got to go to a psychiatrist. I'm making 8-part series on Kiva, Nyabnya, etc. 3 years ago. Yeah, it's been up there. It would be great if you could put it on the channel as a playlist. It's great to impressive change in your physique. Yeah, thank you. So I moved from chubby, borderline diabetic Gary to skin and bones, trying to get muscle mass Gary. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Like I said, it makes me feel like I have ADHD or something. So let's see. Made a playlist. All right, cool. Yeah, make a playlist, guys. Send it to friends. Why do Catholic Bibles not translate all of Esther from the Greek? If the reason we have chapters 10:4, 16:24 is because the Greek is the correct reading, shouldn't they also translate 1 to 10:3 from the Greek as well? You guys want to field it, or I got some thoughts?
So why are they not following the Septuagint? He wants to say, but rather the Vulgate plus the additions.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can answer it, Gary, if you want.
Yeah, well, it has to do with textual criticism and the textual base for your translation. So the Greek deuterosections, scholars believe, I forgot which ones they are. Is it B through E or something like that? That they are originally in Hebrew, not Greek. But the earliest, obviously, the only text that we have comes from Greek, right? So it isn't like they're only taking it because it comes from the Septuagint. It's really, that's our best ancestor to the text that we have. So obviously they're going to use the best text they have wherever in Esther you have. So, earlier Esther, like 1:1 and following, which doesn't have deuterocanonical sections, you could use the Septuagint, they could use the Masoretic text, they can use all sorts of text, right? But for those ones where the textual tradition narrows and those deutero sections, they would use that. Now, for example, if maybe at Masada or Qumran, if they found Deuteroester there, you'd bet that they would probably figure that into their translations. It's just in terms of what text you have to translate, the Septuagint's basically what they have. So it doesn't have anything to do with like giving a canonical approbation to Septuagint and saying, okay, everything must be from the Septuagint because of these parts. It really has to do with, what's our best ancestor text, most accurate text. That would be my take on that question.
Yeah, and I did sometimes struggle with this, that why don't we also follow the Septuagint? Like, you hear this stuff like, oh, the Septuagint was the text of the early church, and so, why the Vulgate? Why the Masoretic text? But actually, when you study it, then it wasn't just the Septuagint.
Right.
For example,
Right.
the Syriac was not actually following the same textual tradition, but rather it was more connected with the Masoretic text, and that was in the Syriac churches like Antioch and so on, and and the same way, of course, the ancient Jews did have multiple texts. It's not just those that were more aligned to the Septuagint, but some were indeed more aligned with the Masoretic or Proto-Masoretic text, I should say.
Right.
So it is a complicated issue when it comes to textual criticism.
Yeah. And remember, in the Old Testament, it's very bare. Like the New Testament, we have tons of different text and text traditions and translations we could use. When you get to the Old Testament, it's not the same. And that's true for the Proto-Canon too. There are parts of like the Masoretic text will have things that's not in the Septuagint and vice versa, or it may be in the Qumran or something like that. So there's, like you said, it's very complex. But when it comes to the Old Testament, the text tradition is definitely much more narrow. And so you don't have the what do I want to say, the benefits of like New Testament, where you have a plethora of things. And yes, I did say plethora. Fancy word there. Let's see.
And at the end of the day, no one followed almost the Septuagint of Daniel, isn't it? So
Yeah, right.
That was an
Yeah, that's
exception.
another thing too. It's interesting that the tradition handed down, largely Septuagint, but it makes that little jag, to the Theodotion, and for that reason, we don't have a lot of Septuagintal Daniel.
And it seems that Ezra is also not really Septuagintal. I mean, you find it in the codices, but the codices are not reflecting what is Septuagint, the real Septuagint was. So you might have these mixtures of like the Kaige and other kinds of traditions.
Yep. Did St. Jerome ever come to terms with the 73 book canon? So, I take it, did Jerome ever change his mind after adopting the Hebrew Verite?
I had a very, very long back and forth with a Catholic brother, and he was arguing that no, but I don't think he resolved some of the issues I pointed out, like he admitting the Jews excised Tobit, that they corrupted the text, and of course his numerous later quotations and so on. I would not say 73 because it's quite clear that he still rejected Baruch towards the end of his life. For some reason, perhaps because you had these two Jeremiahs, one aligned with the Proto-Masoretic and the second with the Septuagint. So, and the one was missing, Baruch. So maybe he thought that Baruch really isn't original, therefore, because you had these two kinds of Jeremiahs, so one of them must be authentic, and he chose the later. On the other hand, the Septuagintal Jeremiah is shorter. So in the Proto-Masoretic, you have more of the Jeremiah than in the Septuagint. Perhaps that was something that drove him to the conclusion that Baruch perhaps is really not authentic. But I think largely he did accept these other books. Now, whether it was 72, 71, I don't know really what is his stance on Maccabees, because he's not commenting on them too much. He uses largely Sirach and Wisdom, sometimes Judah and Tobit as well. But, Maccabees are on the outskirts. But I do think he did. That's my personal opinion, and I don't want to push this on anybody, but I do think he would confirm the church's tradition.
Tony?
It seemed like Jerome got kind of defensive towards the end of his life when people were accusing him of departing from the church's tradition on the canon and the various books. So, yeah, I would tend to lean towards David's conclusion too, just for that reason alone.
Right. Yeah. Very good. Yeah, check out David's excellent series on Jerome changing his mind and at all. Like, we got a ton of stuff on the channel in regards to that. I have a question about a book called Archaeological Writings of the Sanhedrin Torments of the Jews by William Denny's Mahan. And in chapter 9, it has written by Pilate on the trial and crucifixion. I was wondering how much truth was in it. The PDF book is free online. Either of you familiar with this work?
No.
Yeah, I'm not either. That sounds like probably something from the so-called Acts of Pilate in chapter 9. I'm just speculating. If it is, that's spurious. So I would not give it a lot of credence. Stick to stuff that's put out by a major publisher and pretty well recognized. Because the stuff that's free online, unless you know the publisher and so on, could be somebody out there with, some sort of, sorry, I was talking about something else. By the way, guys, please subscribe, hit the bell. We are within, I think, 20 or 30 subscribers from pushing to the next tick on the subscriber list. You could be the one who puts us over the top. So please do that and share, tell people about the channel. Let's see, I see a bunch of joining. Thrilled and pumped. We're thrilled and pumped to have you here. Cryotheology.
It's like frozen theology.
Yeah, I know. Very weird name. William, I'm sure, is thrilled and pumped, even though he's not here. I can almost guarantee it. While he's drinking his coffee-flavored cream and sugar drink. Hollywood big. Okay, Jerome even admits Tobit was withdrawn. Yep, you just mentioned that. Got some side conversations. You ever hear of John the Baptist? Oh, this is a little bit off topic, but you ever hear that John the Baptist might have been from the Essenes? Yeah, actually, Father Mitch Pacwa. I've heard him, and by the way, this guy has several doctorates, so he knows what he's talking about. He believes there's a connection. Also, John Bergsma also believes there's a connection there too. So I'd check out his stuff if that interests you. Guys, any comments on that?
Yeah, John Bergsma, you can find a ton of videos on YouTube about him discussing, he's got a whole book on Jesus and the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I know there's at least one video that he did with Franciscan University focusing in on John the Baptist and all the different connections between that and the Essenes or Qumran community. So I would definitely recommend Bergsma.
Yep. Go ahead, David.
I just wanted to say, I don't know if you're familiar with the Blessed Anna Catherine Emmerich, I believe. Yeah, so it's just a side note, found it interesting because she had these visions. And I think she says that, these Christians emerged from the Essenes. Now, of course, this is not evidence, just found it interesting,
Yeah. Catherine Emmerich.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Passion of the Christ, I think Mel Gibson incorporated
Yeah.
some of the things in the movie. Right. So anyway, I just saw this Sid Z. Lyman's book, The Canonization of Hebrew Scripture, Talmudic and Mishnah boy, talk Mishratic evidence. Very good resource book, but just beware, Sid Lyman has some eccentric views on how he organizes the evidence, because he actually believes that there is non-inspired canonical, like Sirach is a non-inspired, or is it inspired non-canonical? It's something like that. He comes up with a category that basically no one accepts. But it's I don't know if you guys have copies of Sid Lyman's book.
It's difficult to get, and if you find it somewhere, it's usually very expensive.
Yeah, anything with the Canon, you got to snag it quick, because the price shoots up. Like Beckwith's book cost a fortune for a while. Let's see. Honestly, prefer if the Catholic Church went back to the Vulgate primary text opposed to the Masoretic text. It's still, I mean, the Vulgate is the official translation. But when it comes to Bible translations, yeah. And good afternoon, Susan. Susan's one of the Chill Stream folk. Question, because I'm a Bible nerd, what translation of the Bible do you guys use on a daily, and why? And that's from our good friend Reason Belief.
I can't help you because I'm using Hungarian one.
Well, there you go. Go to the Hungarian. Is there an official title for the Hungarian? Is that Revised Hungarian Bible?
No, it's just you got the publisher's name on it. It's like, Szent István Press or something like that.
There you go. Tony, which translation you use?
I just use the RSV Catholic edition. There's a website. Is it honlum.org/RSVCE? So I'm always going to that website to look up the Bible quickly. So that's my go-to. I mean, I've got an Ignatius Study Bible, for the New Testament, and then the latest and greatest, of the New and the Old together that Scott Hahn released. I've got that too. So, but yeah, when I'm looking up verses in particular, if I want to do a deep dive, I think Bible Hub has all the translations kind of listed, one after the other, and so as well as a Greek lexicon. So yeah, those are the resources that I'm usually using when I want to do a deeper dive. And I think it's important when you're doing a deeper dive on a verse or a particular doctrine to definitely look at those different translations, and even look at what the Septuagint, I think at Brenton in particular, to look at those and see what the differences are, because sometimes slight differences are interesting and they add to the conversation. I know, for example, in William's book on the papacy, he's got the different translations and the Septuagint version of Isaiah 22. And so it's interesting, these different traditions, textual traditions, how they can add to the conversation on different debates and topics.
Very good. I use the NAB just because that's what I memorized the Bible in, which is a quirky translation. But publishers want the the Revised Standard Catholic Edition, so I'm kind of gravitating for that just for writing. Here's a question. By the way, we only have 10 more minutes to this short live stream, so subscribe, like, hit the bells, folks. If you haven't subscribed, please do. You can help boost the channel and visibility. Also, we appreciate your support on Patreon. You could be a member, get free stuff that way on Patreon. And please keep us all in your prayers. That's the most important of all. Okay, Luke, what argument would you use against Christians who don't believe that the Apocrypha is ever in the Bible and that somehow the Apocrypha is evil? All right.
Well,
David, or Tony?
Well, I think that one's a pretty easy one from my perspective. If you just look at the great codices, the earliest, most complete Bibles that we have a ton of the Deuterocanon, and probably had more, but pages missing. So, and then Gary, every time he's showing the connections between the Deuterocanon and the New Testament. He's pulling out these old Protestant Bibles and the cross references. So I mean, I created a clip of one of my videos that just focuses on those on the great codices, and then I've got another clip on the New Testament cross references to the Deuterocanon. So based on the King James version. So I think between those two pieces of evidence, like, you've blown it out of the water that they were never in the Bible to begin with. Though I've always thought it would be interesting to see a video that focused just on the table of contents of Bibles throughout history, starting from the great codices and working your way all the way maybe to the King James version. I think that would be an interesting video. It seemed like that would take a lot of research and a lot of work to show that to people on screen, but I think that would be another really cool idea for a video.
David, what would you say?
I think when it comes to people who think that the Deuterocanon is evil, there is no good argument, because you're dealing with very difficult people.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I think just going to, what is it, biblesonline.net. They have a lot of the old Protestant Bibles. You could show them there in black and white that these books were in Protestant Bibles. Maybe that would puncture a hole in their thought bubble. If they're wrong on that, maybe they're wrong about what these books represent. But yeah, I agree with David. If they think it's like flat out evil, then I don't know. You got a lot of work to do, right? A lot of work to do.
Yeah. I mean, if the New
right.
Testament is using these books, how evil can they be? But you know, you have to do your work to show that too. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can answer this really quick. Is there any apocrypha that Jesus quoted from? Yes. See Chill Streams. Going through it. Maybe not quotes, but pretty darn close to quotes. I certainly utilized them. Here's another one. Are there copies of Cyril Jerusalem's catechetical lectures that list the Deuterocanon on paragraph 35? AI is telling me that the Metzger claimed this, but the Schaff version are bad translations.
Mm.
435 would be the canon list in Cyril Jerusalem. So that's actually a whole section.
Mm.
well,
I'm not
you
sure.
got to be careful with AI. You know, I've definitely learned my own lessons concerning that, especially when it comes to pulling citations and quotations from the early church fathers. You always have to go back to the primary sources.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know. I don't know if Daniel means that if there are like variations when it comes to Cyril's list, like, are there copies of Cyril Jerusalem's catechetical lectures? Or I don't know what's the precise question. I mean, the list is quite straightforward.
Right. Yeah, well, in terms of listing in that section, only Baruch and
the letter of Jeremiah,
is on there. That's the only ones listed. But throughout the catechetical lectures, he uses deuterocanonical books. So that wouldn't be necessarily paragraph 35. It'd be elsewhere.
Also the mystagogical lectures as well. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Let's see. Metzger. Oh, we got super chat. Thank you for the super chat. You are awesome. We truly appreciate it. God bless you. Great teachers. Sorry it's off topic, but would you make a stream about the rapture? It's off topic. This is unfortunately Apocrypha Apocalypse is narrowcast to anything with a canon, which is actually huge. But the rapture, I don't know if that would feather into canonical issues. There's lots of great live streams out there on the rapture. I'm sure Sam Shamoon has probably done an in-depth debunking of the rapture. So I don't know. You guys, what do you think?
I don't know even what that is. So
Yeah, it's an entirely American phenomenon. That's what's funny. It came through the Darby Bible translation.
Okay.
And yeah, European Protestants don't have a clue what it is. It's like it's just an American thing. That there's actually 3 comings of Jesus, one in Bethlehem, one with the rapture, and then the end of time. And the rapture is all the elect are actually taken up physically into heaven, leaving the wicked on earth. And if you don't die as a well, there's lots of different versions, but then there's the tribulation and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I don't think we'll do one on the rapture. There's lots of really good material out there.
Does it have anything to do with those candlesticks which you need to have for this special event?
These
3 days of darkness thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
this
is
not
totally
related.
Protestant. Yeah. That, by the way, that's another thing. Run down the sources for people that do the 3 days of darkness. I did that, and the sources don't exist for nearly all of them. And the ones that do exist can be interpreted in different ways. But anyway, Christopher Tucker says, and by the way, thanks again for the super chat. I've heard that the Septuagint didn't necessarily identify which books were inspired versus not inspired, just that it was a standard translation for various books. Is this true?
Like the question is what are we referring to when we talk about these Septuagint? As I said, it's kind of a misnomer to me, and many scholars would agree, because of course when we look at the most ancient church, you didn't have leather bound book from cover to cover saying that this is the Septuagint. You had scrolls, and basically you had Greek. The simplest way to refer to this is like Greek translation of the Old Testament. That's the easiest way I can describe the Septuagint. But of course, then you had other versions as well. But I don't think that the Septuagint itself identifies the books, but the church in general would identify the Deuterocanon to be amongst these Greek translations used as authoritative scripture. And of course, you have later sources like Cassiodorus, who says flat out that part of the Septuagint are these books, and lists just the 7 Deuterocanon besides the Proto-Canon. So if we go with a 5th or 6th century source, okay, we can go with that, but as I say, this is a very difficult topic. What the Septuagint is, how did the text look like, and so on. But generally, I think the consensus is that the Deuterocanon was part of this collection.
Yeah. Tony?
Yeah. I mean, it's possible, that, why would they translate it if there wasn't some significance to it? I mean, that was the question that I would ask, so maybe it doesn't get you all the way to inspiration, but there were people reading and using these writings, and so that's why they got translated. Otherwise, you wouldn't bother. So I would think that would be one of the key questions that you'd have to answer. One thing I want to mention real quick is I watched a video from John Bergsma on why Catholic Bibles are bigger, and he pointed out something I hadn't heard before. But if you have scrolls, the issue of the canon may not be as pressing as if you have a codex and you have to determine what's going to be from the beginning to the end, because you're stuffing it all together in one book. And so it's kind of awkward if you're trying to rip pages out of a codex or add to the codex. Whereas with the scroll, each writing is on its own individual scroll. So I thought that was interesting as Christianity becomes legalized, and they start to, the empire even funds books for the churches. It becomes more important to kind of figure out what the canon is, because you're going to put it all in one codex, and you don't want to miss books or add books that aren't there. So anyway, I thought the difference between a scroll and a codex and how that relates to the canon was an interesting point that he had.
And by the way, I just wanted to throw this out. I think the biggest discovery besides the Dead Sea Scrolls would be if we could recover Origen's complete hexapla. That would be just mind-blowing, because he had all these different versions, and the fifth canon was the Septuagint, which is called the Septuagint. And you had these others, of course, and that would, of course, put the case into rest. Of course, it would be
And by the way, we can also say that the Deuterocanon was intermixed with the Proto-Canon without any distinction, which could signal that it was viewed as part of the sacred corpus, right? None of them were placed like after the New Testament, which would signal that it's additional, not part of the corpus. Okay, guys, we come to the end of the live stream, but I want to do one last question before we go. But before I do that, please, guys, subscribe, like, hit the bell. We got 34 people watching. Truly appreciate it, all of you. Thank you for your prayers and support. Now, this question has to do with fish guts. And when I think fish guts, I think Dr. David. And what's the fastest explanation for people regarding the infamous fish guts in Tobit?
Fastest explanation. Wow, I'm slow actually, so I can't be that fast. But I don't know which part that it was used as a medicine or medicinal usage. That's actually proven that the ancient nations did use these internal organs, not just fish guts, but other stuff as well, and successfully actually. So that's not surprising. When it comes to the driving out the demon, I mean, I would say just that's, again, for me, if that is someone is troubled by this, then you should be troubled by the fact that David could drive out the demon by playing on a harp. So I don't see the real distinction there.
Right.
Yeah. Or Jesus uses spittle and mud in order to heal. I mean, is that scandalous? Is that any more scandalous than the fish guts? I mean,
yeah,
I would say no.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Well, hey, that's a great question to end the live stream with. So let's see.
But maybe I will do an 8-part series on this,
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, do an in-depth 8-part series. You could get into the anatomy of fish.
12 hours
so,
at least.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, I know,
people can buy fish oil in the grocery store, right? I mean, I don't know what its properties are for health, but I mean, it's not inconceivable.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I got to get going. Thank you so much for watching, and David and Tony, thanks again for making it on the stream. I know it's tough. I know, David, it's tough for you at this time of day where you are.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay, so it's all good. Plus, it's always great to have, of course, Tony on board and dive into it. There's never a time that talking about the Canon isn't fun for us geeks here. So again, please subscribe, like, hit the bell. God willing, I'll be able to do a chill stream tomorrow morning. We're going to talk about Acts and Book of Wisdom. And God willing, also, we will be on Sam's show. Don't know what time. It'll probably be sometime in the evening. Hopefully, we'll have the whole team there. But just keep your eyes out. And like I said, subscribe, like, and do all that stuff. All right. So till then, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.